The Zathran had studied humanity for 17 cycles before they struck. They had catalogued Earth's weapons, measured its military response times, and calculated the psychological breaking point of its population. Their simulations predicted total surrender within 48 hours of the initial bombardment. They were a species that had conquered 43 worlds, and they had never been wrong. The orbital strikes came without warning on a Tuesday morning. São Paulo vanished in a pillar of plasma fire. Mumbai's skyline melted into radioactive glass. Jakarta, Lagos, and Cairo followed within minutes. 2 billion souls turned to ash before the first emergency broadcast could even begin. The Zathran warships hung in the sky like iron gods, their weapons still glowing with the heat of genocide. Admiral Chen stood in what remained of the Pacific Command bunker, watching the casualty numbers climb on screens that flickered with each aftershock. Her face was stone, but her hands trembled as they gripped the edge of the tactical display. Around her, junior officers wept openly. The comm channels screamed with the voices of the dying. "They want us to surrender," her second officer whispered, his voice hollow. "They're broadcasting terms." Chen looked at the terms. The Zathran were offering mercy. Humanity would be permitted to exist as a labor species, building their conquerors' ships and mining their conquerors' resources. Children would be taken for re-education. Earth's culture would be archived and forgotten. It was generous by Zathran standards. They usually simply sterilized conquered worlds. "Send a response," Chen said quietly. "What should I tell them? No." The word rippled through the bunker like electricity. Officers stopped their crying. Technicians looked up from their stations. Someone laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that held no humor but something darker. Something awakening. "Admiral." The communications officer's voice cracked. They'll destroy another city." They said, "I know what they said." Chen's eyes never left the display showing the Zathran formation. "Tell them no. Then tell them this. They have made their first and last mistake." The Zathran commander received the message with what his species considered amusement. These humans were in shock, surely. They would see reason after the next demonstration. He selected Mexico City for the honor of teaching them despair. The lance of energy never reached the ground. It struck something invisible, a shimmer in the air, and scattered into 1,000 harmless streams of light. On 1,000 asteroids scattered through the belt, on Mars and Luna and deep beneath Earth's scarred surface, weapons that had been sleeping in darkness opened their eyes. The Zathran had studied humanity's known military capabilities. They had not studied its history. They did not know that humanity had nearly destroyed itself 6 times before reaching for the stars. They did not know that the treaties banning certain weapons existed, not because humans couldn't build them, but because they terrified themselves with what they had already created. They did not know that in secret vaults and hidden laboratories, humanity had locked away the instruments of its own extinction, had sworn solemn oaths never to use them again, had told itself comforting lies that they were all decommissioned. They did not know that humanity's greatest fear had always been itself. The first quantum lance tore through the Zathran flagship from bow to stern, unraveling its molecular bonds and reducing 3 kilometers of warship to its component atoms in 1.3 seconds. The second and third lances caught the cruiser formation before they could scatter. Kinetic impactors launched from lunar railguns decades ago, positioned, patient, waiting in the dark, began arriving at their targets at 0.9 C. Each impact released energy measured in gigatons. But it was the nanite clouds that made the Zathran truly understand their error. The clouds looked like nothing, a faint darkening of space easy to miss in the chaos of battle. They infiltrated the Zathran ships through hull breaches, through air recyclers, through the microscopic gaps in their armor. Once inside, they began to build. Zathran crew members watched in horror as their own ships turned against them. Bulkheads sealed, life support systems reversed. The nanites didn't just destroy, they converted, transforming the ships themselves into weapons that tore their own crews apart with surgical precision. In the deeper sections of the vessels, the screaming lasted for hours. Admiral Chen watched from her bunker as Earth's forbidden arsenal erased the Zathran fleet from existence. She felt no triumph. These weapons had been built during humanity's darkest centuries, when they had turned them on each other. She remembered the history lessons, the Calcutta incident, the Melbourne conversion, the day nanite rain fell on Beijing and left only transformed meat where a city had stood. "How many of them are left?" she asked. 17 ships, came the reply. "They're attempting to retreat. Don't let them." The last Zathran vessel died 3 million kilometers from Earth, its distress beacon cutting off mid-transmission. In the silence that followed, Chen activated the emergency network and began issuing orders. The weapons needed to be sealed again. The treaties needed to be reinforced. The world needed to forget once more what humanity was truly capable of. In the ruins of São Paulo, survivors emerged from shelters to see the sky burning with the funeral pyres of their attackers. They did not cheer. They simply stood, watching, understanding in their bones what had been done in their name. Across the galaxy, other species would eventually detect the electromagnetic echo of the battle. They would analyze the weapon signatures and the energy curves. They would reconstruct what humanity had unleashed, and they would note with careful precision that these were only the weapons humanity was willing to use. The Zathran's name would fade from galactic memory within a generation, but the lesson would endure. Humanity did not lose wars because it lacked the capacity for violence. It lost battles. It made mistakes. But when pushed to the edge, when faced with extinction, humanity did not surrender. It simply stopped pretending to be civilized. Admiral Chen stood in the bunker and looked at her hands, the hands that had given the order, the hands that had opened Pandora's box once again. Outside, the sun was rising over a broken world, and in the orbital paths above, cleanup crews were beginning the grim work of dealing with what remained. She thought about the 2 billion dead. She thought about the weapons now being sealed away again, and she thought about the message that would ripple through the stars, carried by the light of the Zathran's burning ships. Humanity's first instinct was mercy. Their last echo was always victory. But between those 2 points lay an abyss that even they feared to cross, and the Zathran had made them cross it.